In our 12-month mastermind program, Steven and I recently came on a Monday mindset call and did a training all about mindset, how to be a powerful person in your business and life. I know on the Rainmaker Family Show, we bring in tons of guests with different authority, and mindset is one of those things that you sometimes have to hear over and over again until it clicks. And it's something that is so important and vital in all areas. So, this recording, Steve and I did just about a week ago, and we want you to take some notes because not only are we talking about how to be a powerful person, but I believe it's a powerful message for you today. So today we're really going to be talking about being a powerful person in business and life. And I know powerful, I feel like can take on all these meanings when you start thinking about like, oh, I'm going to be like powerful. I don't mean that in a way of like, I am going to take people out so that I can be the last one standing. I feel like oftentimes the most powerful person in the room is sometimes the most quiet and the most humble, and you would never expect how powerful they actually are. So we could really like go into like feel like three different talks on this. So we're gonna kind of cover as much as we can. But today, it's all about being a powerful person. And just so you guys know, in my story and all of this, for years, I feared birth. I feared giving birth, getting pregnant. I kind of like leaned into, Hollywood movies of like the woman on her back, like being rushed to the hospital. She's not going to make it, screaming, blood everywhere, all of those things. And like my mom had great positive births. So it wasn't like I was hearing her speak these negative things, but that's just what my mind played it out to be. And it wasn't until I got around other mamas who had had incredible births who actually spoke up and taught me what it could be like to be a powerful person in the area of birth. And so I feel like I became a powerful person the more I put myself out there and the more that I invested in knowledge and understood. And so now, like, if you want to talk about me, if you want to talk with me about birth, I will talk your ears off because it's something I'm super passionate about. And I feel like the knowledge that I gain has made me a powerful, confident person in that.
Yeah, and sometimes some of these things, like, I mean, for birth, it was leaning into the uncomfortable
Yeah.
so that you could level up in that area, and also equipping yourself, like going deep, getting a mentor, like having a
Mhm.
doula, having a birth coach,
Yeah.
like reading books, like, like you went deep on that
Mhm.
topic. And sometimes like that clarity and that confidence comes from digging in, right? Like
Mhm.
building that uh kind of authority on the topic, right? Like you build true authority by actually going through it, right?
Mhm.
But like when you haven't gone through it, which a lot of you have never gone through building a business on Amazon before, like it can feel really scary. So you have to learn to lean into some of these powerful techniques we're about to teach you. So I was telling you, we're digging into this yesterday. Like we were like, this is like probably a three-part talk. And so we're gonna hit as much of it we can today. There's really three main ways we want to teach you how to show up as a powerful person in your Rainmaker business, in
Mhm.
your life, your marriage, your kids. And they really have to do with your minds, your words, and your actions. We're going
Mhm.
to really focus on, I believe, two of those today, and we'll see how much we get through. And if we have to do a follow up call, we will on a
Mhm.
Future Mindset Monday. So, does everyone have their notes? Does everyone feel like, man, yes, I want to level up in my showing up as a powerful person? If that's you, drop a I am powerful in the chat
Yeah.
because we're gonna about to talk about the power of your words. And so even starting to say it like I am powerful, it's gonna start to shift some
Mhm.
things for you. Start to shift some things for you. So you never feel like, oh, I'm without power, right? I'm
Mhm.
helpless. I am a victim to what's happening right now. And so the first topic we want to really hit, if you're writing down, taking notes, is the power of words. Okay, so powerful communication. Powerful communication. So we're going to go through three upgrades in the topic of powerful communication that are going to help you in your Rainmaker business and probably your life as well. So powerful communication upgrade number one. Before we tell you this, we got to tell you a story.
Yeah, so having powerful communication is powerful and important both in business and in life and all areas. So I want to tell you guys a story about Stephen and a little miscommunication we might have had. So Stephen got really excited about wanting to buy this like new fancy bed, like for us. And
Yeah.
he kind of like was doing, internet late night research like he usually does with fun new things. And he kind of casually mentioned to me, I'd love to buy this bed that like, cools and like keeps, the body temperature, all these
Does all
fancy
the fancy
things, all the
things.
fancy things. I'm more of a simple girl. Like just, I want like a comfy duvet
I
comfort.
was like, I want the $4,000 mattress, like this thing is awesome. It like cools you down. I sweat so much.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to sell Chelsea on this
Yeah.
idea.
And it's late at night. And so I probably said something like, oh, yeah, sure. Like, okay, cool. Like, we hit this milestone,
Yeah. I think
whatever.
you said like, oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. And so the next thing I know, we must have not talked about it. I don't know what happened. The next thing I know, this like mattress shows up at our house. And it's this mattress that we had been talking about, or this cooling system, whatever you want to call it, that we have been talking about. And I was just like, Steven, like, I said cool, but I hadn't made up my mind if it was like 100% yes or 100% no. And I wasn't being clear and concise with my communication. And neither was Steven.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was two
I
sides.
just got excited and I just bought the thing,
Yeah.
So we have learned a lot in that. And like, that I have learned when I go to Chelsea for like, hey, like we bring each other into purchasing decisions that are over a certain amount. And so I've learned, hey, just make sure you get a double confirmation on the thing.
Mhm.
Like, hey, did you actually say like cool? Now she was cool with it, it all worked out. This wasn't a fight we had. We're just trying to give you guys a real life example of how this happened. But also Chelsea's learned to be very clear and concise. And like when I'm really excited about something, kind of in that mode, she's like, I like that. And I definitely think we may get that, but I'm not like 100% saying yes. Can you like follow up with me? And so that has been very helpful in our communication. Okay. So on why we're sharing this story with you. So powerful communication upgrade number one is to be clear and concise and to be specific and direct. So like
Mhm.
being clear and concise, specific and direct is going to help you so much in this group. Okay. So just
Mhm.
as an example, let's just do a business example, for example, because we really value your time freedom. Okay. Your time freedom as well as ours, as well as our team members, right? But like in your time freedom, let's say you're scheduling a meeting with a PPC agency, right? And they're like, yeah, you're like, hey, would it work to meet up on Zoom to like talk about your stuff maybe next
Mhm.
week sometime? And they're like, yeah, totally. Like next week works. Like what works for you? And then you're like, these are emails back and forth, right? And you're
Mhm.
like, oh, I don't know. Like I could do Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. And they're like, oh, cool. Like Thursday or Friday could work. Right. Is this like hurting anyone right now? Like the pain of like doing all those emails back and forth. Okay. Like clear, concise, specific, direct communication looks like this. Like, hey, I would love to meet up and talk about your PPC agency services. Like I have Thursday at 1 p.m. available. Does that work for you? Like it goes straight to the point. Okay. Now, if
Mhm.
it doesn't, maybe you say, and if it doesn't, no worries. Maybe you could recommend 2 or 3 other times that work for you. We'll find a time. I just took it from like 7 emails to like one,
Mhm.
or two. Right. And so I share that example with you because you can do this in your life and your business. Some friends won't do this. Like they're just texting you and it's like, do you really want to meet up or no? Right. But in this Facebook group, we see this from time to time that especially when you're, some of you are graduating or coaching. Okay. So does everyone get that powerful
Mhm.
communication upgrade number one? Be clear, concise, specific, and direct.
Awesome. And I'm constantly thinking about this whenever I'm sending an email, or a text message, whether it's a friend like Steve had mentioned, getting together with, a vendor that I'm working with. I think even just this week, I was working with somebody and she sent me a first draft over or something. And I remember like I was frustrated in the moment. I was just like, I don't like this. I don't like this.
Yes.
And it wasn't on the person, it's on me and me being clear and concise of what I need from this
Mhm,
person and how this person can best help what I'm specifically looking for.
mhm.
So I think you even challenged me and you said,
Yeah.
okay, like what needs to change in this? What wording would be different?
Yeah.
Go ahead and write it out because you are in this phase with this person where you are learning. You're kind of almost like doing this dance of like you have to kind of give specific direction and feedback because you are going back and forth. And
Yeah.
so I really had to train my mind with anything, where again, text message, I'm communicating with someone on Facebook Marketplace that I'm selling, like clear and concise and to the
Yes.
point. And that's a muscle. It's a muscle. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah. So when you put a post out there, or even like, I mean, like working with someone on Fiverr or something, right? Like it might not be love at first design, right?
Yeah.
So using your words powerfully, like we talk about leveling up. One of those levels is communication, using your words to create wealth. This is one of those things that can really help you. So as you're posting, you can ask yourself, Is this really clear? Is this concise? Am I saying this in a way that's going to get me closer to my goal, you know?
Mhm.
Maybe like sometimes it's, I mean, for you, it was hard, like giving
Mm,
the feedback to the vendor on like what you liked and what you didn't like. It was hard. So you had to find kind of certain things and
mm,
find the language. So figure out what works for you. But clear, concise, specific dragging is going to help you show up as a more
mhm.
effective communicator, which is a more powerful way to show up in business. It's going to get you more powerful results.
Yeah, and when we're specifically talking about rainmakers, it will help other rainmakers help you quicker and faster when we specifically know what you need and what is missing.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. Okay, you guys ready for powerful communication upgrade number two? Okay.
powerful.
Powerful communication upgrade number two is we're calling this one upgrade your
All
language.
right, so
Okay.
everyone write that down right now, drop it in the chat, say it out loud. Upgrade your
This
language.
is a big one. And I feel like we have a mentor, a mutual mentor in our life that does like basically marriage counseling with us. Like it's kind of business, kind of spiritual. But he does this so well to us
Mhm,
because it's one of those things when you know it, you can notice it, but some of these things are kind of nuanced. Sometimes you'll see it more when you look back
mhm,
on posts you've made or things you've said. And so when we're on a Zoom call with this couple, they will notice this about us and
mhm,
it leads us down these very deep pathways of
mhm,
growth where he's like, I noticed the way you said that was interesting. Can we dig into that? Right. And
mhm.
so upgrading your language, let's talk about this one. And to kind of help you guys catch it, we're going to give a couple examples as well as like a study we found that's really, really sweet.
Yeah, so an example, I remember, I feel like this happens to this day anyway, but I'm just more aware of it. I used to say a lot like, "We're so busy, we have so much going on." Like I would actually say that out loud, and then all of a sudden, I remember it was during one of our wedding seasons. We were so burnt out. I started hearing people say like, "I know you're so busy, like I don't want to bother you." And we kind of
Yeah.
just got that, like, because we had said with our words how busy we were, people, even close friends and family, just stopped reaching out because of what the words we had communicated.
Mm.
So for me, I like to say, like, yes, if you look at mine and Steven's calendar any week, there's a lot of things going on in a lot of different directions, but they are good things. And so instead of saying, like, I'm so busy, I just like, I don't even know where I'm going to fit this in. I have to shift it and upgrade my language to I have a really full calendar. And on those full calendar things, like I am very focused. I know exactly what I'm doing every single day, when I'm clocking in, when I'm clocking out, when I'm with the boys. And obviously, that's not always perfect, but that is like what I aim for. And so I've shifted my language to I'm really full and I have a really full calendar instead of I'm so busy and frantic. So
Yeah.
it's just one way in our life that we have upgraded our
You might think
language.
it's like really small, but like busy, that
Mhm,
word is kind of like feels like when you think of busy work, what do you think of? It's kind of pointless. It's kind of
mhm.
like aimless. It
Yeah.
it feels reactive, like this thing's happening to me. While, full or like intentional filling of my time, right?
Mhm.
Like my calendar's full, right? If Chelsea says that, like her calendar full might look like her working half a day and then being
Mhm.
half a day with the boys, right?
Yeah.
That is full for her, right? Because that was she defined as like this is what my day to look like. So
Mhm.
you're actually more a master of it instead of like this thing's happening to me.
Mhm.
And so it's just a slight shift of language, right? And we even would do that. Like I mean, you guys have heard the I can't to how can I. That's one of
Yeah.
the biggest shifts of language. But there are so many little nuances with your language that if you just kind of look back on emails or text messages or things, you can learn a lot
Mhm.
about yourself. And so I actually found this study as we were going into this, like this powerful upgrade of upgrading your language. And there was a guy who did a study, like he developed this computer program that would analyze all these texts and it would
Mhm.
look at basically the content words and it look at the context words
Mhm.
basically. So it look at like what's the content of what this is saying, but like also what's like the context, like what's the what am I trying to say? It's like what's the in between words, like the conjunctions and the auxiliary verbs and the prepositions and the articles and the like the connective tissue words, like the I's versus the we's, or like
Mhm.
the can'ts versus the cans, right? And so he really concluded that these insignificant words can provide really a window into the soul. And their research on this was super interesting. I could link
Mhm.
to the article if you guys want to go more in depth, but it was so interesting. Like they could tell from like, they looked at poems of people who committed suicide versus poems of people who were very optimistic and joyful, right? And they thought the content would be very different. They thought the content of this one would be very dark. This one would be very, but actually the content is very similar.
Mm.
But the use of like the word, like I language was way higher. Self-focused stuff was way higher on the depressed person. Isn't that really interesting? They
Mm.
actually looked at military ranks and they looked at like people and where they were ranked in the military, and they could literally tell where people were ranked based on like the type of language they were using. It's really
Mm.
interesting. And so some of these things like this, like those in between words, they are really kind of your subconscious coming out.
Mm.
And you can really tell a lot about it. So like I'm gonna give you a couple examples because like when we first heard this, and we had like even a mentor who was telling us a thing on this, and it didn't make sense at first. I'm gonna give you a couple examples. So like let's say we're hiring someone and we're asking them like, tell me about your like colleagues at your last job, right?
Mm.
If that person uses a lot of like we's, right? Then they probably felt kind of like part of the group, like inclusive, like they were like one of them, right? We
Mm.
did this, we accomplished this, we did this. If they use a lot of they's, right? Oh, they did this, they did this. Like you ask them about their colors, no, they did this, they did this, right? It kind of tells you a little bit about their relationship with the group. It's so subtle, right? And so it might not be something you even notice, but the slight shifts in your language can shift your reality, like what's happening
Mm.
in your life. Because sometimes those subconscious things have to go first. Like you got to
Mm.
lead with those things, even if it feels weird. Like shifting
Yeah.
from from I am busy to like I have a full schedule,
Mm.
like is a slight change, and it felt weird at first, but now
Mhm.
it is natural, right?
Mhm.
Or shifting from I can't meet up because I don't have the time, right? That's like
Mm.
poverty, like language. I
Mm.
can't because I don't have, right?
Mm.
Like I am choosing to not meet up at this point
Mm.
with coffee dates because I'm also choosing to do this thing over here. And in this season, like me choosing that means I have to say no to this, unfortunately. Right. So
Mhm.
it's slightly different, but like so much more powerful when I said it that way, as opposed to I'm a victim, I'm under this thing. Right.
Mm.
Notice how you talk about your business. Like when you talk to someone on, your spouse, your kids, someone on the airplane, like do you how do you talk about your business? Do you belittle your business? Do you say, I just had this little
Mm.
side hustle? I had this little thing going
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
I notice a lot of I notice a lot of people use that word little when they're talking
Mhm.
about their own stuff. Like I know it's like it's okay to be humble. I totally get that. But like I'm just digging into this thing a little bit so you guys start to notice your
Mhm.
language, right? We even shifted like in our business, like in Amazon, like sometimes like stuff comes up, a customer emails you, and they're like, like this, like UPS like throws their package, right, and breaks the thing,
Mm.
right? And so a lot of times, like we default to like apologizing for those things, like taking ownership of those things. Oh, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. We'd love to make it right. Like that sounds really nice, but also like if it wasn't like directly related to you or something else, you may shift that to something instead of saying sorry to say thank you. Hey, thank you so much for letting me know about the situation. We'd love to help you resolve it swiftly, right?
Mm.
Instead of me taking like apologizing like I did the thing, I'm just gonna say, hey, thanks for letting me know about that. I'd love to help you,
Mm.
Slight shift in language, but different, like powerful position.
Mm.
Okay.
That's good.
Other thing that we wanted you to really look into and notice, and this is something that one of our this guy who's doing a training with our team, he said, never attach a personal pronoun to a negative. Okay. And
Mm.
when he said that, I didn't really understand what he meant. So never attach a personal pronoun to a negative. What this means is when you use these personal pronouns, like that's like I, me, he, she, right? These are identity statements. So, and especially the I ones, when you say I am, these are identity statements. You got to really pay attention to your language when you say I am. Okay.
Mm.
Because there's a difference between I am overwhelmed, which is like it's an internal thing, it's an I am identity statement that
Mm.
defines you, as opposed to like I'm experiencing overwhelm right now, right?
Mm.
Where it's more of an external thing. Overwhelm is out there and it's come
Mm.
against me, as opposed to like I am.
Mm.
Okay. And this is just a slight shift in language. And I again, like some of you guys might be like, does this really work? It really does, you guys. Like
Mm.
they've done studies on this, and sometimes you got to lead with your mouth, you just lead with your mind before you actually feel it, right? I am
Mm.
broke. I am confused. Like these are identity statements. Instead, what you can do, and Melissa's really trained on this, is instead of saying like I am blank, you can instead express how you feel about that current reality. Like
Mm.
instead of saying I am broke, you can say I am feeling a little bit scarce right now. Like
Mhm.
I'm feeling a little bit tight right now because okay, like we're not trying to sugarcoat reality, right?
Yeah.
But you can say I'm feeling this way. It doesn't say I am this thing. It says I'm feeling this thing,
Mm.
but I'm choosing to declare this thing instead. So that's
Mhm.
a really powerful framework. Instead of saying I am, you can say I feel this, but
Mhm.
I choose this, right?
Yeah. And I just want to say for me, I oftentimes feel these negative spiraling thoughts. So we all experience. For me, they oftentimes happen at night, right before I'm trying to go to bed, which is, so
It's
convenient.
10 p.m. right on my
Yeah,
clock, guys.
just like, oh no, here she goes.
I'm like, let's just go to sleep.
Yeah. And so like I know that this happens. And even I think like
Yeah.
last night I started to feel overwhelmed and I start thinking about all these things and the, book launch we did earlier and even talking to you guys and like all these other things we have going on. And I started to feel overwhelmed, and I'm really careful about like my language. And I've had to really, I've had so many people challenge me in this. Like, what are you saying about yourself? What are you saying out loud about your current situation? And I love, Stephen, how you framed that of like, we're not sugarcoating the hardness that happens in life. And when you're trying to overcome the hurdles, you're in the hero's journey. Like we're not
Yeah.
sugarcoating that, but we're just like, pay attention to the language and don't become a victim of your circumstance. Like, how can you overcome? How can you choose to be powerful even when there's things that are just like flying at you? So for me, just a practical example, I was really aware of my language last night and I had to really fight hard. Like it wasn't easy just last night,
Yeah.
to like not let those thoughts take over my mind and like not give me a good night's sleep. And I slept great last night. So that was a big win. But I just like, I've learned like when those thoughts start coming through, I need to like take a deep breath. I need to be off my phone, off screen time. I need to like just get in a place where I can just think and process. Have I written everything out? And just remind myself, like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be okay. Just because you have these feelings doesn't mean that those feelings are like going to take over your
I
entire
always go,
life.
feelings
So
are liars.
sometimes Steven is really gracious with me.
Uh,
And he like, sometimes I'm like, I need you to just sit with me in this moment
yes.
for a minute. And he really wants to coach and like get me out of it. Cause
We
he's
have
just like,
learned in our marriage,
yeah,
like sometimes there's coaching moments and then sometimes I just also sit there
yeah,
and say, that sounds hard,
yeah.
you know?
So,
And I have those moments too, you guys. Okay. I have these
yes,
moments too. And Chelsea's coaching me
yeah,
or saying, hey, that sounds hard. And
yeah.
so sometimes you gotta have those conversations. And one last thing on the power words. I think in this, if you want to be more self-aware of it, I
Mm,
think it's easiest to look back. So
mm,
go to the Facebook group,
mm,
click on your name and see how you show up in your posts and the type of language you use in moments of pressure.
mm,
Because it says a lot about where you're at and but also where you can grow, you know?
mm,
There's a big difference between, I think I can, I know I can, or
mm,
I will, right? There's like
mm,
levels of powerfulness and confidence. And again, we're not trying to be untruthful. Okay.
mm,
But we're trying to train you in a new mindset that's going to really help you grow in your business and your life and um, not feel big sways when things are swaying, which they do in entrepreneurship. Like there's a difference between being on the boat, like on the
mm,
deck and on the mast. Okay.
mm,
If you're on the mast and there's some waves, you're feeling it. You're like,
mm,
whoa. But the same person who's
mm,
like you could be the same person down on the floor, you feel it just a little bit.
mm,
Okay. Like there's a difference, right? And so some people are just naturally just like feelers, and that's totally okay.
mm.
But for it to not to throw you into a spiral, I'm
Yeah.
trying to train you on the language so that you can create mental pathways where it becomes normal. We're talking about with Kimberly. It's
Mhm,
like sometimes these mindset things, you gotta like they feel weird at first. It's like
mm.
it just feels like weird. But then all of a sudden creates a new neural pathway in
Yes.
your mind where like now the easiest pathway for your default system to go down
Mm,
is the new one. Right. And that's when things really start to move. You're like, wow, that situation came up. And if that came up 3 years
mm,
ago, that would have
mm.
thrown me for like a
Yes.
mental spiral. But
Yeah.
instead, I was like, oh my gosh, every problem comes with a possibility
Mm.
attached. I know that I'm going to be a solutionary in this. And
Yes.
like, I'm so excited that this problem came my way because there's going to be something so good for me in this,
Mm,
and it's just such a different shift. And we've seen this in our own lives as well. We're
mm.
communicating to you guys.
Yeah. And you being in Rainmakers and being in this program, you have given Stephen and I permission to hold you accountable and to speak into this and to call you out and to say, hey, like these are mindsets that we continue to work through and will continue to work through because, leadership, it trickles down. So what we're working through, we want to pass on to you so that you can continue to have breakthrough. So you have given us permission to do this. So that's why we're like, man, mindset and the words and the languaging, like
Yeah.
think about it. What am I saying about myself, about my business? How am I showing up?
That's good. Now, that powerful communication, those first two really play into this third one. Okay.
Mhm.
And this third one, if you're taking notes, which you should be, is that powerful communication upgrade number three is that in giving, you will get.
Yeah.
In giving, you will get.
And I know just a second ago, or not too long ago, I was kind of dissing on Steven when he like bought the expensive bed without really checking on me with me. But I just want to brag on Steven for a moment, because what we're going to talk about in powerful communication, Steven models so well. Like I have never seen someone do this as well as Steven, I feel like. And that is, we've shared this with you guys. We're in several different masterminds, and we've always learned that when you give, you receive. And we used to go to conferences often, and we'd come in and we'd be like, we have a problem and we need to find the people at this conference to help us solve the problem. Like we are almost like coming in crisis and like, I need help. This is why I'm here. This is why I paid the money. And all of a sudden, I don't know when or how it happened, but we decided to have this mindset shift that instead of coming to this conference with what can I get, we were going to flip it and say, what can we give? And since then, in that particular conference, it was like the best conference that we ever attended. And so whether it was like, I know for you, like you saw it as a challenge, like, how can I give? How can when the person come up to me in line that is talking about their business and I think I have a creative idea, I'm going to freely share that with them. And I'm going to encourage this person in that way. And I saw this happen. And I literally saw Steven just like go around and like really love on people, all different business levels. And I've seen him do this at different masterminds. Anytime we get a new strategy, whether it would appear as like a secret strategy or something we should keep to ourselves, he freely shares, whether it's taking time to record a video and posting it. Even like just this week, Steven was on a call with like a super well-known best-selling author who like, if I said his name, you'd probably know him. And like this guy was coming to Steven for like advice and help. And you freely gave him advice that he took very seriously. And that was your time. You didn't have to do that. So anyway, just like be powerful in your communication and be a giver.
Yeah. Like, what's kind of gone to my mind is like when you show up as a giver, it'll do two things. It'll elevate you and it'll connect you.
Yes.
It'll elevate you and it'll connect you. If you look at the people that are really connected in this group that have built those relationships, they typically start with them giving. They typically start with them giving. And if you're not receiving what you're looking for from this group, I would ask you, are you giving? And so like I said, Chelsea, like we joined this mastermind and like these people in this mastermind are just like, we are like the small like business in the room. And I'm being truthful. I'm not being like using the power of my words.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. You gotta be like when you buy real estate, you buy like the worst house on the street, right? It's like kind of similar. You got to join groups. Kimberly said this morning, I love that Kimberly said, she said, get in rooms where you're like, people have you pushing, what you say? It was so good. She said like be around people that push you 1 foot out of your comfort zone, like at all times. And so we join groups like this where it's like, wow, like there's new levels of this game. And so I don't, like it's as soon as you come into rooms like this or masterminds like this, you're like, what do I really have to give? Like I'm not an Amazon expert, but you probably are an expert at something. You probably have something you have authority and breakthrough on, or you might just be a chapter ahead of someone else. You might have just learned one thing in the business, but someone else needs that. Just to recap, how to be a powerful person in business or life. We talked about 3 powerful communication upgrades and the topic of power of words. We also want to go deep on power of your actions and power of, what was the third one? Your mind. Yes. And so those are different topics for different mindset days, but we really hit the words thing. So hopefully you got a takeaway that you're going to take action on. That's going to be your action item this week. is to do that. Like, do that.
Mhm.
Is it a shift of language so that you can get, right? Like giving to get?
Mm.
Is it clear, concise, specific, direct? Someone help me. That was number one.
Upgrade your
Number two is
language.
upgrade your language. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then number three was the 2 for 1 special.
Yeah.
In giving you will get. Okay.
Yes.
So go do it now, as Joyce said. That's awesome
I
in the
love
group.
that.
And we love you all. We'll see you on the next Mindset Monday.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our Rainmaker coaches.
If you want to get a call with them, see if it's a good fit for you to work with us to build a business that allows you to have time freedom and financial freedom, you can get that call at makeitrainmama.com/podcast. That's makeitrainmama, MOMMA.com/podcast.